My name is Sergeant Andrew Turco.
I'm Suzanne Blake. I head up MIT Emergency Management.
Thank you for joining us for the Active Shooter Violent Intruder Awareness Training. What makes active shooters so different from any other type of response is time. So normally, if anybody in here has ever called us for anything before, we go to you, we find out what's going on, we either assist you with whatever it is, or if it was something where someone took something and left, we go looking for that person, right? An active shooter situation is very different from that. So in an active shooter situation, we're not coming to you, we're going to where the threat is, okay? In an active shooter situation, they're very brief. They're anywhere from 5 to 12 minutes. So that's from the moment they start. That is not a lot of time. So that is why you folks would need to take proactive steps to figure out how you can protect yourselves and improve your chances for survival. So 60% of these situations have ended before law enforcement even arrived. So again, that's why you need to take these steps and figure out what to do on your own before we get there. And finally, this is going to come up again and again. If there's a medical emergency, that's something you folks are going to have to deal with until we can get folks in there to help you. So in an active shooter situation, you have the place where the shooting is happening, and then you might have a place where the shooting was happening. So where the shooting is happening, that's the hot zone. Where the shooting was happening is the warm zone. And because you work in Cambridge, the Cambridge Fire Department, Pro EMS, has access to what's called tactical EMS. So in a situation, if there were to be an active shooter situation on campus, they can respond to the warm zone. So other places in the country where there's been an active shooting situation, people didn't die right away. They died because they had to wait for medical attention. They were in a building that hadn't been cleared yet. What we have access to here, because we have a tactical EMS close by, is that people could respond to a building that was previously, there was shooting there, and they can extricate people, get them on ambulances. Now the difference between regular EMS and tactical EMS is tactical EMS will be dressed basically like Peter was dressed. The only difference will be is they do not have weapons. So an officer would be assisting them getting in and out of the building so that they could extricate people out of the building.
But the first response is police going directly to the shooter, and those teams would come in afterwards. So
right.
We really recommend take first aid, CPR. You can take those through our office, and also learning the skills that we're teaching you here in this class so that you know what to do before those teams arrive.
You're used to seeing this blue outfit with a hat patrolling the campus. But we want you to understand in an active shooter situation, we may look more like a Ninja Turtle, all right? And we want you to understand that that's what the good guys look like, okay? All right. So in addition to the tools that we'll be using that may be a little different from what we normally have, we want you to know that the amount of training that the MIT police do on a yearly basis. So we train on our own. We train with a simulator on campus. We train with the simulator once a month. We train with Cambridge Police and the Harvard Police once or twice a year. So we're going through scenarios with them with building searches, active shooter situations. But just as important, when we utilize our simulator on campus, we're doing a lot of don't shoot scenarios because those are more important. Those are more likely to happen than actual shooting scenarios. So we have the full gamut here. So let's talk about what we're going to be doing when we respond. Okay? When we respond to an active shooter situation, there's some things that we want you to do. Okay? Like we said, it's going to look different. We are going to look different. Ideally, we're going to be in teams of 4. Now, that might not be possible. You may be aware there is some construction on campus, and it may be difficult to get 4 people in one location before we can get to a building. So it may be 1 or 2 people that have to respond alone. Okay? They're going to go directly to where the last shots were fired. They're not going to stop. If you have additional information you can give them, great. If not, they're going to go right past you. You may be injured. You're going to need to deal with your injuries, and the police are going to go right to the threat because the more time the police spend doing anything else is the more time people are getting hurt somewhere else. So they may be shouting commands. We're going to be using different tools, and we're probably going to be dressed a little differently than you normally see us. So let's talk about what happens once law enforcement gets there. We're going to be giving out commands. We want people to remain as calm as possible. We understand that's pretty easy. Everybody's sitting down. We've just had lunch. It's easy to be calm right now, right? But in these situations, they're going to be pretty volatile. We need people to stay as calm as possible so that we can give people instructions as quickly as possible. So again, we want people's hands to be up. We want fingers to be spread. nothing in your hands, okay? Any sort of belonging should have been left behind. If you have a phone, it should be with you and it should be in your pocket. We want to avoid any sort of like quick movements, pointing, yelling, things like that. It's going to be a pretty chaotic scene to begin with, and we want to cut down on that as much as possible. But one of the things that we want to make sure people know is that you're going to kind of have to take care of yourself until we can kind of end the threat, and then we'll be able to assist people with stuff. So we do not often say this. In an active shooter situation, when you get that MIT alert, one of the things we do not want you to do not call the police. That sounds crazy, but we will be sending you all of the information as soon as we have it. So the more information that we have, the more information you will have, and the safer you will be. So there is certain information that would be helpful. So if you're in a building and you see the person, and you have a description of the person, you know where they are or which direction they were going, that is helpful information. We do want people to call us with that. If you have a physical description of the shooter or shooters, you know what they were wearing, you know what types of weapons they had with them. You don't need to be a ballistics expert or a firearms expert to make that call. Basically, what we want to know is, did they have a handgun or did they have a long gun? So this is what we're talking about. And our strategy for going into the building is going to depend somewhat on what weaponry they have. So if someone has a handgun, their ability to hit a target that's far away is greatly decreased. So take the police department. We qualify with this firearm once a year. The furthest distance we hit something away is about 25 yards. It's pretty difficult. If you're not, it's pretty difficult to hit a target that's 25 yards away when it's not moving, okay? So if you are moving and you're 25 yards away, it's very difficult for someone who is trying to hit you with a firearm. So if you have some distance, don't think just because you see someone on the other side of the room or a couple room lengths away that you can't run. You still can run. Now that changes a little bit if they have a long gun. The capacity of the weapon is different. The ability to hit something farther away is different. So if you have that information, you can give that information to us. That's important.
So these incidents are clearly very traumatic for any community, and particularly at a higher education institution. Virginia Tech actually just had their 10-year anniversary of their incident, and they're still dealing with it, and they had a lot of remembrances that day. They have a huge memorial on their campus. So these are very traumatic incidents, and we want you all to know that we're going to hang with you in the recovery, for the long-term recovery. In the aftermath, witnesses might be detained for questioning, so just be aware of that. If it did happen in your location, you might get questioned by police. And also the building might be offline possibly for days as they collect evidence. So those belongings that you left behind, we don't want to discourage you from leaving them behind, but you might not have access to them for a while. That said, we will help you get anything that you absolutely need. So if you need your keys to be able to drive home, then we'll help you get those working with police. We also want to make sure everyone has the assistance that they need. So we'll ramp up the mental health response. We'll make sure it's ongoing for however long it needs to be ongoing for. Possession retrieval, and then we will probably have to set up a family reunification center, because typically in these incidents, a lot of family members of staff and faculty come to campus. Parents are calling. If parents are in the area, they will also be coming to campus. So we'll set something up where we can connect people, get them the information they need. If you've ever been to the flu clinic, it'll be a similar setup as that, where we'll have people coming in, people helping in that regard. And we'll help you find alternate locations for work and classes if it was your building that was affected. We'd also be helping to work on a memorial service, things like that. And then ongoing communication and coordination is the most important piece of it all. So we want our community to stay informed, make sure you know what's going on, how we're moving along in the recovery process and the response, and just make sure that you're comfortable with all the information that you need. So we would be helping with that as well.